Hello, and welcome to Mapping the College Audition, a podcast where we explore the landscape of the college theater world and try to demystify this daunting audition process. I'm your host, Charlie Murphy, director of MTCA, that's Musical Theater College Auditions, and today we've got a rocket in our pocket of a show lined up for you. Ilda Mason is a new friend to us, and we really jumped at the chance to chat with her because we've been looking for an opportunity to talk to someone who had some of that international experience. I know we have a lot of international listeners. Hello to all of you. But we thought it'd be really cool for them to hear from a person who managed to make that leap from somewhere outside the United States to this commercial success in NYC. Today on the show, we get into that abstract idea of what like an MT theater experience was from Panama, which is where Ilda was from. We talked about that idea of Ilda was glad she didn't move right away because she needed to figure out some of those visa requirements. We talked about the specifics of an O1 visa and how difficult they are. We talked about once you're in New York City, what it is to have a safe home that you can come home to. We talked about asking questions. We talked about the idea of you can't live off smiles and hugs, which many of you out there probably knew, but it's a lesson for some. We talked about that idea of booking work without an agent, which Ilda booked a lot of big work without an agent. We talk about the West Side Story movie audition process. We talked about Steven Spielberg and his dinosaurs. We talked a lot about the art of being a swing, for those of you who wonder what it's like to be a swing in a Broadway show. And we give a bit of legal advice for international students. But before we get to this episode with Ilda, Meghan, I understand that you have now seen the West Side Story movie. What did you think?
I have. So it's a very fun experience. I feel like now I'm at the age where I'm seeing like my own friends in movies and like coming to success of big things. Like friend Colton Ryan was just in the Dear Evan Hansen movie. I just saw my camp friend Ben Ross in Tick Tick Boom. So now like when my friends go to the movies with me or like we watch a new thing, they're like, well, do you know anybody in it? And if I don't, I'm some sort of like failure. You're like, you don't know anybody in it? You can't get me backstage at the show? Like,
Ilda.
What's going on? I know, but I know Ilda. I knew like a few other people through friends of friends in the show. And it was super fun to see someone we just interviewed in the movie. And she was great. She was just as vibrant in the interview that you're now about to listen to in the movie. And I encourage all of our listeners to keep an extra eye out for her. And she's well featured in America as well. And all the dancing. She's so fabulous. Cool. And I really thought like the movie is a bit different from the stage production, of course. And it was really interesting seeing all the changes. Normally I'm a bit of a snob to be like, well, it's not like the original, so it's not as great. But I really enjoyed like they fleshed out the plot a little bit. They had a lot of Spanish. I was really into it.
I cannot wait to see it. This is one I really want to see in a theater. I'm hoping that we'll feel confident to go into a theater and do it. Yeah. I think we probably will in these next couple weeks. As you're listening to this, we're probably in the big height of, or I guess not as you're listening, as we're recording this, we're really into the height of the new Omicron surge. But I do think we'll get back to a point where with a mask, we'll feel good about being in a theater. And I just miss that so much. I haven't gone to see a movie in a theater forever.
I mean, this was the first movie I have seen in a theater since pre-pandemic, and I used to go a lot in the city. It used to be like me and my roommates thing on like Friday night we'd go see a movie. But me and one of my high school friends went to go see while I was home, and we went in one of those like fancy theaters that have like the big like reclining theater chairs. Yes. So it was a little bit more spread out anyway in that sense. And once the movie started, everyone started moving away from each other. So it was kind of like this unspoken thing, like this theater is open. Let's spread out even more than we have to. So I felt good.
I love it. All right. Well, let's get into this really fun interview with Ilda. Well, we are so excited to bring on Ilda Mason. Ilda went to the Universidad Santa Maria la Antigua, which is in Panama City, otherwise known as USMA, is I guess the shorter version of that. She appeared on Broadway in the West Side Story revival. She's done tours of On Your Feet, Cinderella, Legally Blonde, and most recently and most notably is in the new Steven Spielberg West Side Story movie, where she plays Lutz. She also previously was on Dancing with the Stars Panama seasons 1 and 2, and she won season 2. So we can't wait to chat about all of this with Ilda. Ilda, welcome on. How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited, and thank you for the cool intro.
Oh, it's truly our pleasure. Truly our pleasure. I mean, one of the reasons I was so excited and I jumped at the opportunity to have you on is that we actually have a lot of international listeners. And while we've really tried to show a number of different educational paths to successful performing careers within the US, so far none of our guests have started outside the US. So I really want to have that experience of what was it like from the outside of the US approaching a college or educational experience. I'd love to hear so much about that. So why don't we start with when you were, I often start at 16, 17. What about even when you were younger, when you first started thinking about, I might want to do theater, I might want to do musical theater. What did the idea of Broadway mean to you? Or what did that look like in terms of a dream?
Honestly, it kind of, I came here and had this very abstract idea of what moving to another country and studying musical theater would be. Completely. Entirely. People would ask me okay, so but where do you want to study? And I would not know the answer. How are you going to do it? I don't know. I just knew that I wanted to study abroad, and then I wanted to, when I honed it down, it was musical theater and acting for film, because I knew that I loved being on stage. When I longed for being on stage when I wasn't. That's how I figured out that I loved this so much. And film, because every time I go to the movies, I dream, I get so inspired just watching the trailers. It's like a whole experience. I get goosebumps. I get so excited. So everything.
And so you've achieved the pinnacle when you're talking about you're doing a musical that is on film. You've done it all. You've nailed it.
I guess so. Every job after this is going to just suck.
It's all downhill. Yeah, exactly.
No, but yes, it was honestly super abstract, which I think has worked to my advantage. Because, sometimes we have an idea of how we want things to go. However, life sometimes has different plans for us, and they are better and they are different, and everything happens for a reason. And also not knowing all the specifics about how to get there was, I think, good. I mean, I wish I knew some things, which I'm very happy to share with with your international listeners. But the not knowing so much was a blessing too, because I could not get in my head and be like, oh, that's so hard, that's so difficult, that's too much. How could I ever? No, it was just okay, just one step, next step. Let's see.
Some of that naivete almost helped you to go I don't know what I don't know, so I'm just looking one step ahead.
Yes.
Well, what did training look like back then? So what did you do as a kid or as a teen? What did it look like in terms of what you were doing at Panama?
I think I did a bit of everything. That's actually how I found that I loved this. So I started training ballet, which I think it's an amazing base for any musical theater artist. Just it's so technical. It's a great base, and it teaches you discipline that you will eventually need in theater and in life. But that was the one dance style that I did. And other than that, I was in music band, so I played the clarinet, and I was in every other extracurricular activity that you could think of at school. I was a very busy kid, but it was mostly just in dancing and in the arts, and then theater. Then it was fully theater.
At what point did you know, I definitely do want to go into musical theater? Or did you think about specifically going to musical theater in college? Not everybody who's thinking about musical theater necessarily studies structural architecture. What made you make that jump before you jumped to musical theater?
Well, it's really funny. I think everything's connected, because the one and only ever ballet competition that I attended was in Italy. And I fell in love with Italy's architecture. I just was so in awe of the beauty and the tech, like every. I mean, it's Italy, right? And I was 14. I remember this, and I thought then I need to learn more about this. So that's how I picked what I like. What I like to say, the thing that I love the most in second place. That's terrible English, but like this, the thing I love how do you say that?
You said it more beautifully than how you thought you wanted to say it. That was much better.
In second place.
But was that a thought like, oh, I think this might be something I love just as much, or what did it always feel like? This is a backup plan. This is not necessarily my job.
By then, I did not know that I really wanted to do musical theater. It was until like I would say 3 years later that I then did my first ever musical in high school. We did not have like a musical theater program or anything, or this is like a normal high school in Panama. We did not like, that was the first ever musical that was done because one of the seniors wanted to do it. So
the first ever at your high school that had where
exactly.
There was a musical.
Yes, and it was Grease.
Thank you, whoever the senior was, let you do this.
Yes, thank you, Andres Holder.
Thank you.
Oh my God, I love him, and I owe him so much. He started my love for musical theater,
and it starts with Grease.
With Grease, yeah. That same year, I did my first professional play in Panama because one of my mom's friends, she needed a teen to be in a show, and there I was. So I do not know when I did my homework, honestly, because I really do not know. But so then is when I think it was in 10th grade, when I then realized that I really loved musical theater because it brought everything together: acting, dancing, singing. And then I did not feel like, oh, I could be a better singer. No, it was just like I enjoyed doing all this, you know? So it was later when I had to choose where to go to college, that even though I knew that I wanted to go abroad eventually, my mom one day was like, oh, don't leave me. And she jokingly said that, as a mom, like I'm an only child, but something clicked with me because I always knew how competitive this would be, or I had an idea. That's better. I had an idea of how competitive this industry can be. So I thought I can study something else as a plan B, because by then I knew that I really wanted to do this. I wanted to do acting and musical theater. Little did I know later that I actually cannot work as an architect here in the United States just because I don't have the permits. And because, I mean, I could work like virtually, like remotely. However, what I thrived the most in architecture was doing things with my hands and models and stuff like that, and not rendering and stuff in the computer, which is what I could do remotely. So plan B is out the window, but it's okay because I've realized that there is nothing else I would rather do.
And then what is the timing of Dancing with the Stars with all this? So is that happening before you moved to the US? Did you come here and then go back? How did all that work?
So this is why I say that everything happens for a reason, is because, so I stayed, right? And for those 4 years, then I did musical theater and the best shows that I was ever in Panama. So I did Beauty and the Beast. I did A Chorus Line, Hello Dolly. I did Peter Pan, and I was Peter Pan. Like that, it took a long time for me to actually like get a lead in Panama because I was growing as an artist. And so on my last year, it was 2012. And because I was in Hello Dolly, and the choreographer there saw me doing a duet, I was playing Minnie. She recommended me for the cast of Dancing with the Stars. So again, like one thing leads to the other, to the next. So as I was, again, when did I study? When did I have time to do all this? How did any of this
happen? Yeah.
But so on Dancing with the Stars were my 2 year, like the 2 years before I left Panama, before I moved to New York. So actually it all ended up like perfectly. Like I remember 2013, it was like the Dancing with the Stars finale was like late July. I was somehow also doing Legally Blonde at the same time, somehow. And I graduated structural architecture, and then I moved to New York in September.
And you won the season.
And I won. And I won
take
that
the trophy.
season.
Go to the U.S. You get to ride the trophy wave. Now, I don't know. Can't say I watched Dancing with the Stars in America either. But is it similarly like? Is it a lot of celebrities? Like, is it the big kind of deal that it is for like whatever Sean Spicer goes on and then Hines Ward or all the people that I see.
I guess not as dramatic as it is here.
There's not like crazy costumes and all the stuff that I see.
I think we definitely did have some really cool costumes, but it's not at, this level. This is like ABC, Disney. This is like huge budget production.
Mm-hmm.
It was that, but in our level in Panama. So I always love to say I was Dancing with the Stars, Panama. Okay, guys, Panama. I was not dancing against like Julian Huff and Derek Huff. Like I was not competing against them.
Now, so we're going to get a little bit into what it was like once you moved to the U.S. I'd love just kind of like looking back on the Panamanian experience.
Yeah.
Is there anything like now that you are here that you go, oh, I wish I'd done this a little differently? Or anything you go, I'm so grateful that I had this bit of training? Or, oh, I wish I had a little more experience with, like, is there anything that now that you're here and now you're really working in the industry that you think, I wish I'd just focused a little more on this, or I love that I focused so much on this?
Yes, two things. One, I wish I had done tap. And just because I really cannot tap to save my life. And it's as learning a language.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a tap audition the other day and it had been years since I had tapped last, terribly. And I was like, what is this? It felt like I was trying to speak Russian. I remember telling my dad, I was like, why did you never like put me in tap class? And he was very quick to say, because you never asked. And I'm like, damn it.
Come on, Dad, come on.
My parents always, I'm so grateful to them because they always allowed me to explore many like things and art forms, and not just art, but like disciplines. So yes, I could have. So that's one thing that I wish I had done. Maybe also singing. But I think I wouldn't be where I am today if, I don't know. I am a firm believer that like things happen. I've said it now like 3 times. Just because, let's say I was a tapper, maybe I would have been on tour in a tap show because I was so good at tap. Look at me already thinking that I'm gonna be like, I was gonna be a genius
great, of
tapper.
course, you could have been. But there's no Steven Spielberg tap movie.
But like it would have led me somewhere else. It's because the projects that we do define us. Like the amount of time, like my boyfriend, I know that I would have met him if I had actually gotten I went to this audition, I didn't get it, and I know exactly which project it was, and I know that I would have met him there. But no, that wasn't the time. It was years later during On Your Feet. And same with everything. Like that's how, so yes, I want to say tap. But one thing that I am very thankful that it went exactly that way is that I did not move straight away. Because those 4 years that I was studying architecture and I was doing musical theater and Dancing with the Stars, I did not know it, but I was creating the professional resume that I was needed for me to stay here and apply for the visa. If I had gone straight from high school, I would have gone here, studied 2 years, done the OPT, and had to go back because I would not have had the credits. The visa is super specific. It's the O1 visa or an artist visa. And it's basically like an extraordinary, like individual of extraordinary abilities, I think it's called. Where basically you have to prove that you are the bee's knees, period. One of the categories is awards. And they're like, like an Academy Award, an Emmy, a Grammy. And I'm like, you think I have an Academy Award and I'm asking you for a visa?
If I have a Grammy, I'm going to live in Panama. Come on. If I already got my Grammy, I'm done.
Exactly. He's like,
but you have your Dancing with the Stars season 2.
Which it does translate here. Like
for sure.
Because the people who are reviewing these applications are not people from the industry. These are people like government people who are in an office just literally looking at pieces of paper being like, is this person good enough to be here? And to join the race that is this career. For my green card, I had to go for the final interview. And they were like, okay, so what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, well, I am the assistant dance captain at the Broadway National Tour of On Your Feet, Gloria and Emilio Estefan's show. And he's like, okay, and what do you do? I'm like, well, I we are in charge, like me and the desk captain, we are in charge of looking out for the like artistic integrity of the show, while the choreographer, Tony Award winning Sergio Trujillo, is not here. We are in charge. We teach the show to every new person that comes in. We rehearsal every single day. We are also swing, so we know every single part in the show, and we're in every single night after we've spent a whole day teaching the show to new people. And you know what he said to me? So, and that's hard.
Oh.
And I was like, Elwoods, who are you?
I'm like, you get here and do it. You do my job. I'll sit behind the desk and judge people. We'll see what's harder.
It's tough. So Dancing with the Stars was a thing that everyone here knows, or at least has heard about. So that was my award. And it meant the absolute world, and a huge difference. Not just like, oh, it meant the world to me as a human. No. Like, it literally allowed me to be here legally.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, we talk about it a lot with our American students of like, when you're ready to move to New York, some people, they'll move right during college. Some people will move after college. Some people spend some time before they move here, to when you're sort of emotionally and psychologically ready. It's amazing. It feels like a whole other challenge as an international person to say, not only do I have to say I'm ready, psychologically, but also am I literally ready legally to stay here?
Yeah.
It's a whole bear.
Yeah, it's crazy. People don't think about it because, of course, why would you make it even harder? But we have to jump through hoops to literally just join the race. To be at that first step of like, okay, now I can actually go to auditions, and if I get the job, that's a real thing. Like, people, international students or people who are here and they're in the middle of legal processes, sometimes it's like, hey, I booked this job, but I don't have a green card yet. I have this visa. It's like, it's so technical. People have had to give up jobs because of like legal details. And it's not that they're here illegally. It's just that literally the permit that they have is not the one that the studio accepts, or something like that.
Like, this business is not hard enough. Like, you need one more shackle around your ankle.
Yeah, if I were to go into how kind of impossible that whole application is, no. But it's doable, and here I am to say that it is.
Before we do too deep into the legal processes, which let's go down that rabbit hole if we want, but let's just talk a little bit about just the experience for you now. You move to New York City, and what the heck is that like, coming from a whole different country? What kind of resources do you have? Do you have friends and family in a community, or how are you sleeping on couches? How are you figuring this out? It's hard for anyone, but I imagine a whole nother level moving to a new country.
Well, I have always loved like being abroad. Not that I've like gone everywhere, but I just love the feeling of figuring it out. Like, I love okay, I don't know the language. I love that feeling, and like getting to know a place. So on that front, I was good because I felt so excited just to be here. I was also very fortunate because here in New York, I had an uncle that he has lived here my whole life. So I literally met him in person when I moved here. And I was very lucky that I was able to stay with him for the first 6 months, until I then found a roommate at school. Like, I found someone that I really clicked with, and then we looked for an apartment together, and then I had someone to like be my, when you're like applying for an apartment, someone to co-sign and all this. I know that this is very different from most international students' experience, because they would like go to dorms, or I think that part is, I don't know. I think housing sometimes, if you come to study, like, I don't want to say it's easy, but I think I don't know. I feel like there's so many options in New York City.
Yes.
That
almost overwhelming sometimes, though. It feels like it's not so much that it's impossible to find a house, or a place to live, but you're like, what? I could do anything. Where?
Anything.
In Queens and the Bronx and Washington Heights. Where am I supposed to go? And how am I? What's convenient to wear? And what neighborhood does that mean? And it can be overwhelming if you don't come from a big city.
I think now that I think of it, I think what worked really good for me is that I had a place for like 6 months. Those 6 months I was able to kind of like figure it out, ask questions, ask around, and then hear from people who live here. Hey, what area would be good? This is my budget. What can I afford? And like just get that conversation started, which you can also do while you're still not here. But I don't know, I would say if you can find somewhere that you find safe for you to be on those first months while you get yourself together. Let's say it's a college dorm room or with a family member or a friend. I think that would be really good, so that so you can have like a safe space to come home to. I think that's key to the New York experience. And asking questions like all the time about everything. The more you can learn about the city and about the ropes of everything, the better.
Pretty good rule for life, just asking questions all the time about everything. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
And so at this point now, you've moved here, you're studying, you're taking classes during the day, and you're also, are you already auditioning at that point?
No. So I studied musical theater and acting for film. I was in class from like 9 a.m. till, I think classes were till like 5 or 6 something. But then we were working in musicals. And so we always had a production to be a part of. So then had to be at school till 10 p.m. So there was no time to actually audition. It was only until my last year at school and the last few months that I was actually able to audition. Because auditioning, or at least back then, it was a 24/7 job. No, I'm joking. That's too dramatic. But it was a full-time job. That's what I mean. Like you went to these, you stood in long lines for the cattle calls, and then you would spend the whole day there, and you would be seen at some, not at others. You would audition, get callbacks that same day, and then next thing you know, it's 5 p.m. if you've been in the same, like in Ripley the whole day.
Yeah, and you're totally ready to dance at that point after standing around.
Exactly. It's like super warm. This feels great. But no, I auditioned after.
And what are you doing? Like any fun survival jobs? How are you paying the bills at this time?
Oh, I worked as a server in 3 restaurants, and that was a really good skill to have. I think, I don't know, especially in New York, because that is such a big part of, like, you eat out, you will always interact with someone who, with a server, a waiter, waitress. And I think it just opens your eyes to like the human side of the person that is helping get your food and your order. And, I think we sometimes take for granted so many people that we encounter day to day. And I am so grateful that which is funny, I left Panama. I have a degree in structural architecture, and I am a waitress. Well, was a waitress back then, which is perfectly fine. This is one of the things that my mentor, Chad Austin, he taught me. It was so easy. It was like, you need a job. You need a survival job, because, and this is the thing, is like, this career is so unstable. You could be great one day. Prove is 2020. I was in the peak. I was like, yes, my God, I just did a movie. I'm on Broadway. Yay. And then you don't have a job. Which is, like, being smart about one's money is key. It's crucial. Having a budget. I will sound like an old lady, but guys, have a budget, because we will bleed money in New York City or anywhere. Like, life is expensive.
Money so easily. Just walking out there's like, what's the meme that like New York, you wake up and someone charges you $40. You're like, wait, I just woke up. Where did it?
Wait, what happened?
How did it? Yeah.
I haven't even gone to the bathroom yet.
Well, and fellow On Your Feet alum, we just had Josh Segarra on the pod, and he was saying, what are you too good to be a waiter? Like that was the advice he got, that he was like, you've been on Broadway, who cares? You can't be a waiter anymore?
Exactly. Like, who cares? Absolutely. Like, we need a job. You need a job. And there is no shame in working. I think that that's it. It's like, it's very simple. We need to make money, because unfortunately we cannot live off of smiles and hugs. We need to
If
pay the
only
bills.
we could, Ilda. If only we could.
If
Well,
only we could.
let's take a super short break, pay some of those bills with our podcast advertisements, and then when we come back, we're going to get into Ilda's big breaks. We're going to talk about Broadway, we'll talk about Spielberg, we'll play a game. Of course, you guys all live for our podcast game, so we'll do that all on the back end of the break right after this.
Woo!
All right, we are back with Ilda Mason, and now we're going to get to what we all want to talk about. Well, before we hit the big movie, we got to talk a little bit about the Broadway production. So you've done West Side Story 1,000 times at this point, and now all of a sudden you're cast in this kind of, I guess, controversial, maybe it's not quite the right word, but this like big deal Broadway production, right? I guess, what was it like now this is your Broadway debut in a show you've done multiple times, but now you're doing this like different modern interpretation? What was that like for you, having all those things swirling at once?
It was really cool to do that version because when I did Broadway, I had already done the movie. So
I didn't realize that. Okay, great.
Yeah. So yeah, I know they came out like the opposite. However, we shot the whole movie and then we started rehearsals for Broadway. So it was, I feel so grateful to be able to do West Side Story because it's such a masterpiece, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's such a beautiful piece of art. It's just a good show. So to be able to do it in different ways, I mean, icing on the cake. It's like such a gift. And this version, the one on the latest Broadway revival, Ivan Hov like deconstructed the whole thing between him and Ana Teresa de Kiersmacher, who was our choreographer. It was wild. Like it was, but I loved it. I mean, it was a crazy experience because, of course, it was to create something that's completely like out of the box. You do have to break so many notions. Like you have to like, okay, forget about this. We're going to start from scratch, to the point that we were creating choreography every day. Like us, like the cast members, we were trying, it was a very like highly collaborative environment, which is different because she is like a contemporary modern choreographer. So that's the way she works, which is not how I'm used to working, like on Broadway and Broadway tours and shows, regional theater. It's like the choreographer's there and he teaches you everything. They teach you the choreo and you're like, great, boom. Here we were creating all the time, which takes a lot of energy, a lot of effort. We were on previews for the longest time. Whatever, that's not the question. But it was really nice to have a completely like fresh take on West Side Story. Still the same story. All the numbers were there except for I Feel Pretty. And I'm really proud of what we created. And I know that this show was like either you hate it or you love it. But it's
that was it. It was polarizing is the word I was looking for. That's it. Yeah. You loved it or you hated it. That's what everyone said about it.
Which I was so happy about. Is like when people said like I hate it, I'm like, well, yeah, great.
Yeah, it's art. Like, you got provoked by the art. Good.
Yeah, like it's tell me why you hated it. And I think it was a version that had people like talking, it was, but not because just for the sake of like, ooh, publicity. No, I mean talking as in like, it felt as if you were watching, and I say this because I was a swing on that version. So I got to see the show and the creation of it. And it felt as if I was watching West Side Story for the first time. So many times we just like, oh, we know what comes next. Oh, I love this song. It's just like a show number. And not, you stop kind of like paying attention to the lyrics and the message and the, So I love that about that version that we created.
And do you feel like each time you've done the show, you've gotten something different out of it? Does it feel like it holds that much where you go, oh, this interpretation, I'm really seeing this, and this time on this? Do you feel, or does it start feeling like, oh, that was pretty similar to the one before?
No, I mean, I haven't done it that many times. I mean, I've done it 4 times. However, I think
that's a lot of times for me.
That is a lot of times, but I feel like it's very different just because 3 out of the 4 times have been entirely different. I've done like the I'm going to say quote unquote, like the normal stage version. Then we did the completely, it's like, is this even West Side Story? Yes, it was, but it was like, what is this version? And then we did the Steven Spielberg version, which had an adapted screenplay by Tony Kushner. We had more Spanish, more everything, research. It's a movie. It's like a whole completely different thing. So it has never actually felt Like it's just the same thing. But what I do have to say is I feel like even if it was 4 stage versions, original stage versions, not original, I mean like the original, it would have been different because of the people. Because I think, people make theater and your experience will be completely different with who you do it with. Like I will never forget my first cast and the feeling of awe that I had. Like Max Clayton was our riff and I was to this day, I'm like, Max Clayton. Like, Natasha Diaz was my Anita. Marie Joanna Griso was our Maria. It's just Austin Colby, our Tony. Like it's just, it stays with you forever because these people touch your lives in a specific way. And I can say that of each of my Marias, Anitas, and so forth. Like
which you don't have to name them all here, just for the sake of time.
He's like, there's no time. There's a lot of people.
We got the Tony. We got the who was our Krupke? Okay, all right. We got to get to now what the people really want, which is let's talk about the casting process for this film. So huge deal, and I think people knew. Yeah. I don't think I'd realized the events of which one was coming first, but people knew back then. I remember hearing, "Oh my gosh, Steven Spielberg's casting a West Side Story." It was a big deal, even just in the announcement of it. Now, of course, huge deal as it's coming out. I'm sure you're basking in the glow of that. But what was that like as this now? Do you know that someone's looking, or was it just a normal audition that you got? How did the casting process work? Many auditions? Did Spielberg just go and see you in something and go, "She's in, you're booked"?
Ooh, I wish this was like, oh well, I got a text that said, "Can Steven Spielberg call you?" Yes, he can. Just like Rita Moreno, like that's how she got the call.
2 a.m.
And yeah, sure, give Steven my number. No. So this whole thing lasted a year. I was, funny enough, I was in Panama because I was visiting. So I was visiting my parents and I get a ton of messages on like Facebook and Instagram just being like, you need to audition for this. It's like, what? You're going to be in this. You need to audition for it. And I was like, what the hell? It's like friends of mine. This is not a casting director. This is not, I didn't have an agent. I did not, I'm like, guys, you do not need an agent to book things. Like anyone who's like worried, oh, I don't have an agent, I can't. Yes, you can. Okay. So it was an open casting call. It was literally just a poster. And it said, just submit 2 songs.
I think our students did that. I think a bunch of our students, because they're looking for a lot of young people. So like a bunch of our students were passing it around and around on social media.
Oh yeah. And it was until I'm going to tell you in a second how I felt very old when I went to the Miami audition. So I sent in my audition tape, and a couple weeks later, I got a callback to read and sing for Anita. Then I got to go a second callback to go into their casting offices in person. And then months later, I was already in the On Your Feet tour. Then they were doing the dance auditions. So they reached out to me. I could not go to the New York audition or the LA audition because I was a swing. I could not leave my job. It was so heartbreaking. The stress that I felt is incredible. Was incredible. But I was finally able to go to the Miami auditions. Those were the last dance auditions. I flew across the country to go to those auditions. It's like, yes, we need to do this. Woo! Stakes are high. So it was 2 days, and I got to dance the first day, and then the next day dance again and sing and read. That day was so incredible. That day I met Patricia Delgado and Craig Salstein, who are the dance team of Justin Peck, and the choreography was so incredible. Like just the audition choreo was like, yes, it was so good. And from there, I got an email like a week or so later that said, "Dear Ilda, Steven Spielberg loved your audition and would love to bring you into work with him further." I was like, what is this? No, what? Oh my God, this is spam. This is a lie. But it was true. So it was the final callbacks. It was 2 days in New York. Like I did not even tell like my parents first. I read that email and called my company manager and was like, I need to go to New York for this audition. I know you just gave me permission, but I need to go again. Okay. And he's like, yes, you're going.
We shout out that company manager. Let's shout him out.
Eric Insko.
Yes,
Thank
Eric.
you so much.
Thank you, Eric. We appreciate you company managers who help us out.
So that was wild. And then I remember like that audition, we did the same thing. We the same but not. So we go in and everyone's there. There's this man with a camera, like a video recorder at the entrance. Like, there are many cameras. The whole team is there. Christy McCusker-Krieger is there. Justin Peck, Tony Kushner, every producer, everyone. Janine Tesori is there. You're okay. And Cindy Tolan, the casting director, she's like, okay, and this is la la la, this is la la la, everyone. And this is Steven Spielberg, the man who was behind the camera. My God. We're like, hi, wow. I get to sing. And Steven Spielberg says, you have a lovely voice. I want to die inside. I'm like, thank you. I just managed to like try to be normal. Then we read and danced. It was 2 days of that. Just like, it was incredible. The energy was amazing because we're just like the sharks were together. So it was like a Latinx party. It was just like, we were like, woo! It was,
and it's like chemistry. We're testing, like, how do you all feel together? Is this all working?
Yes. Yes. It was really fun. And like, we were like switching partners. And yeah, after that, I did not hear anything for 6 months. 6 long months.
But do you feel like you're in the running still? You don't feel like I've given up on it. You're just like waiting.
I mean, I had to put a lot of my energy into like, keep your energy up, good vibes, send out good vibes for this. A lot of time I was just thinking, oh, I should have done this differently. If only I had done da-da-da. Ooh, I bet they gave all the parts already. It was a whole process. 6 months was a long time in which I could hear people getting parts, getting like, but finally I got the call in April 2019 that I would get the feature part of Loose, which was what I really wanted to do. And my God, like the best day of my life. That was, there were no words to describe that. It was, I called everyone. Everyone was crying. It was like,
this time it wasn't company manager first. This time you probably called your parents.
I called my mom, and my mom was like, oh, did you call your dad? Because he was at work. She was out, like at work too. It was like, did you call your dad? I call you first. Okay, call him. It was crazy.
So
it was, my God.
It's so cool. And a good little lesson for our students. I mean, often we tell them don't go to the dark side when they're waiting on school results. They sit there and they go, oh, I should have done this. This is why I didn't hear back.
No.
Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Sometimes you got to have some patience and some breath.
And you know what? I need to say, like, and this will not happen just in school, but like in every audition that you will do, this is my advice, like go in and be you, like do you. Full-hearted, like everything. Give your all, but you. Because whenever we try to like be like someone else or da-da-da-da, then we end up doing like a washed down version of ourselves. And then that's nothing. That's that's where the magic is lost. There is so much magic in just us. And I know this is so cliche and like, yes, be yourself, but it is so true. I have attended auditions and been on the other side of the table in which I fall in love with people, and not because they're the best singer, the best dancer. No, that's not what it is about. It's there is an extra thing that is just what you bring, and it's an energy.
Yeah, that you sense their authenticity. You feel like that's a real person. I know who this is. I'm feeling.
Yeah, and I know that if I had done, I now realize, now that I see the casting, is like if I had, because I thought I should have been sexier, I should have been cooler, then I would have not been cast to be next to Ana Isabel, who plays Rosalia, and Ariana DeVos, who was Anita, because then you have like three similar personalities. You need to have all the colors of the wind, and it was so nice to be able to show that range in what us as Latinas and what we have to bring to the table. That was really cool with all the people that were cast.
So true. Do you have any cool stories from working on the film, working with Spielberg, with Rita Moreno, anything that you're like, oh, I need to talk about this. This was amazing. I don't know what you can say, not say in terms of backstage stuff.
No. I mean, I like about Rita Moreno is like, she is just a goddess of energy and explosion. I always describe it very physically. It's as if every room that she walks in is as if she just slammed the door down. It's like, I'm here. That's how it feels like, because she literally comes in. Imagine, literally, boom, doors down, just like, hello, llegué yo, like that. Like, I am here, because it is she's so vibrant, so herself, so wild. She's amazing. She's amazing. And the thing that I will take with me forever is just how, because I admire Steven Spielberg so much. Jurassic Park is my favorite movie. I was not cool about it when I was like, I told him how much I admire him and his dinosaurs and everything. He's like, sir, my God. But what I will take with me forever is the fact that getting to know that someone as accomplished and awarded and incredible, huge as Steven Spielberg is also such a kind, down to earth and simple human. You know, that is one thing that I will take with me forever, because it taught me that, like, no matter how big you are, how successful you are, and like, quote unquote, I'm just saying big and successful because those are, how do you measure all that? What matters the most and what people actually take at the end of the day is how you treat them, how you make them feel. And I felt seen, I felt listened to, I felt like I mattered, and I could see how he really took the effort to highlight people and how he treated everyone, how he learned everyone's names. I just think it was he's such an incredible person. It was such a, again, gift. This is the word I've used most this past few months, because this whole experience feels like it's been a gift. And actually, this I can say about most of the experiences that we live, like in auditions, even the auditions that go poorly, and there is something to learn from it. I remember I had some terrible auditions lately, and by terrible I just mean like, oh, I tripped, or I fell, I didn't book it, whatever, not the end of the world, it happens. And it will keep happening, however, I remember I went to a Moulin Rouge audition, and I did not have like these heeled boots that they said that we should have. And I was like, oh, okay. And I realized I'm not dancing how I could because the choreo requires something. Okay. I was slipping. I borrowed shoes, still slipping to the point that I like actually fell. Fine. Long story short, didn't get the job. But what I got from it is, okay, I do need these boots because I now understand how I can move differently in them. So I do want them for I think that there would be a good investment. And 2, get them rubbered, because the shoes that I have are suede bottom, and it would be nice to have one of each so I can carry both in my backpack. And if the floor is marly, then I'll use my suede shoes and not hurt my knees. And if they're not, and I would rather use my rubber shoes. Like, it's stuff like that, like tiny things that we can take from every single thing, from every single experience.
If you look at every mistake as a gift, you're going to have a very happy life. It's easier said than done, but
yes,
but great if you can do that, for sure.
Easier said than done. And you do get to be in your feels, like feel your feelings. This takes a lot of emotion and emotions, and it's a journey. Psychologically, you need to like be strong, have a big support group, or at least not a big support group, a good support group, like people that you can come home to or just vent. Of course, therapy, like, just take care of your mental health, your whole self. I have jumped topics.
Hey, you're just going through a whole podcast. We had a mental health component. You just listen to the pod. You'll catch it all. Before I let you go, and we got to play this game too. We got to play our game.
Yes.
But I want to hear a little bit about, I know you're a company member at Abington Theater Company. So I just want to hear a little bit about that. We love theater company ensembles. What's it feel like? What's that experience been like for you?
Well, so I am an artist in residence at the Abington Theater Company, which is so incredible because for a year, then we get to work in different projects. And I have already been part of a few this year, and it's been incredible because one was developing a new play by my other fellow artist in residence, and it was so incredible. I like what I took from it, other than, my God, how cool that I got to read for this part, that like it's a new part, it's a work in progress, is that I got to learn from someone who is a writer. So I am right now very much in love with acting, and I am, I just want to act, but I also know that I want to create in the future. So
Mm-hmm.
it was really nice to be in this area of being like, okay, so this is what the process is like when you write something.
Mm-hmm.
It does, you created many notes, then you sit down. Like it's good to know all these sides of this, you know?
Mm.
And I'm very excited because we are working on a passion project, and I can't say much because it's still in the works, but I am very excited because it also talks about some cool themes, and I am really excited. I'm just so thankful to
Ooh.
be with Abington Theater.
What a big tease. We get almost nothing. Just talks about themes is all we know so far. It's got themes.
Themes.
Before a
themes.
game, not to keep teasing this game, but I also just wanted to hit on, because I know you've swung multiple times, or you've been a swing multiple times. And I love, recently especially, a lot of our students, when we say like, hey, what do you want to do? They're like, I think I want to be a Broadway swing. Because I think they think of it like, this is the Olympics of it. Like they recognize how hard that is to train for it. So I just would love to hear a little bit about the experience of what was it like to learn all the parts. You know, it just seems like an impossible task.
First of all, I love that people are saying they want to be a swing, like Broadway swings.
That's like 5 years ago I started hearing that. I'm like, I'm hearing it a lot now. It's really cool.
So cool because it is true. It is really hard, and it's a really good skill to have. It really allows you to like you're working out like your brain. You're never doing the same thing. It's really good to understand all the moving pieces of a show. It's you in a way kind of take care of your body because you're not doing repetitive movements every single day. Then your body is not going through that. Like the first time that I swung was during On Your Feet, which was very challenging. It's a very technical, like there's a lot of salsa tricks that then you have to just do with any partner that you are assigned that day or that show, which is, it's just, I think it teaches a lot. Like it develops a lot of your self-confidence in a way. Either it makes it or breaks it because it is tough. It is tough, but it is so good. And honestly, like once you're swing, like you will have a job for as long as you want it, you know, like being a swing. And I have been swing twice, and I know that I don't want to keep being a swing just because I know that I have this fire for acting and for creating characters and for telling the story in that way. However, swings are the base of, I would say, the company. Like it's
so true.
It's
almost
so,
the danger sometimes where they'll say like, you're so valuable, we cannot move you. You're so
Exactly.
good in that part because you can do 4 parts. I can't even give you this. You're like, no, don't trap me in that thing. I know it's amazing for you, but
it's tough because then you're like, yes, I can do it, but I want to be able to do this. And so but for anyone who is a swing, who has been a swing or has ever been like, oh, know that you are invaluable, that you are that you're incredible. And I'm gonna say, because I was one, but just
what makes a Broadway show run.
It's tough. You save the show, and then it's like, yeah, you did your job. What do you want?
Every night we save the show. That's just what we do. Okay, let's get to this impossible game, which is probably so unfair to you to make. We just love Shakespeare on the pod, so we cannot resist. Anytime we can do a Shakespeare-infused game, I'm going to do it. And I felt West Side Story was an opportunity for it. So here's the game. It's a very simple game. Sometimes we play silly games. Sometimes we play weird. This is a very simple game. I'm going to read some facts, and you're going to tell me, is this a true statement about West Side Story?
Okay.
About Romeo and Juliet? About both? Or about neither? It means I just made up the fact, okay? West Side Story, R&J, both or neither. Those are your options. It's going to start off super easy, and then it's going to get harder.
Okay? And what do we win? I'm joking.
What do you win? If you win, you could have the season 2 of Dancing with the Stars and the podcast trivia award.
That would be really cool.
Okay, are you ready?
I am ready. As ready as I can be, I think.
Centers around a conflict between the Jets and the Sharks.
West Side Story.
Very easy, right? Centers around a conflict between the Capulets and Montagues.
R&J.
Perfect. Centers around a conflict between the light side and the dark side.
Neither.
That's Star Wars. Great. So we're doing fine.
Exactly. I was like, Star Wars.
All right. involves two young star-crossed lovers?
Both.
Fantastic. You were 4 for 4. Set in Verona, Wisconsin.
Neither.
Neither. Okay, we're doing fine. Set in NYC in the 50s.
West Side Story.
Okay, great. Had a recent production on Broadway in 2013.
I'm going to say neither.
Oh, no, R&J. It was an R&J. That's the Orlando Bloom production of R&J.
Darn, that's right.
Has had approximately 36 Broadway productions.
Neither.
That's R&J. R&J has had approximately 36 Broadway productions. If you
Broadway?
can believe it. Going back to like pre-Broadway into the 1900s, yes. Okay. Has had 7 Broadway revivals. 7 Broadway revivals. We need some music, Meghan.
I feel like I could say West Side. I'm going to say West.
It's neither. West Side Story has had 3 revivals. There have been 3 revivals of West Side Story only.
Oh,
at least that we could find out Broadway revivals.
Okay. I couldn't believe it. Like 64 years and only 3?
There should have been more. There should have been more.
In my lifetime, there's been 2. Wow. Okay.
Okay. In the movie adaptation, involves the use of a gun.
West Side Story. Oh, wait. Both.
Both. We'll give it to her. We'll give her to both. The Baz Luhrmann, R&J. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Had the gun. Okay. Sometimes involves casting across previously conceived gender lines.
Oh my God, I don't know if I know my R&J as well, so I'm gonna say West Side.
I think that's fair. I put both, but we're just giving a shout out to the wonderful Iris Minas with the wonderful
God,
anybody's casting.
With.
Fantastic. Though certainly in R&J, very normal to cast across gender lines. I've played the nurse in a couple productions of R&J. Nothing wrong with it.
That's so cool. Yes.
What about contains a prologue?
Both.
Both is correct. Okay, we did great. We ended on a wonderful string of questions. You've won the game. It's fantastic. You now have a trophy to put alongside your Dancing with the Stars trophy. Super fun.
Dun, 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 dun.
Let's just wrap up with, I'd love just to hear from your experience of like the quote unquote business in the 2 countries.
Yeah.
How are they different and how are they similar? What was your experience of like the biz insofar as it existed for you in Panama versus now in the United States?
Well, I would say that the biz in Panama it's not about as an actor, I would say it's there's a lot of like love for what you do because it's definitely not for the money. You're definitely not doing it for the business side of it. Like you cannot live off of theater in Panama.
It would be more like community theater in the United States, something like a local town where we're doing community theater.
Exactly. Even though just in the sense of you making money because the productions are like they cost a lot of money and a lot of effort is put into it and like it's like a lot of money. Like big productions are made. However,
they don't pay the actors.
They don't.
Unbelievable. Panama, listen to this. Pay your actors better. Come on.
No, but it's just because like I think like the audience, the people are not as drawn to theater as they could. So it impacts the sales and the money that goes into it. A lot of the money then it's spent in, the production of it
The
and
spectacle.
not exactly like not just the spectacle, but like creating it, running it. So at the end of the day, we cannot have the salaries that we have here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and musical theater is like one of the few actually like American art forms. Like we export like Hollywood movies, like Marvel movies, and musical theater seems like the things that we send out into the world. And we've made that. That's us.
When I went to China with Legally Blonde, like it was you could see how people love American musical theater. Like there were fans like that would be at the stage door waiting for you with gifts, even if you're like ensemble member number 14. And
I'll take your gifts. Thank you.
Yes, people like love all of it.
Yeah.
And then in the US, I would say it's yes, you can definitely live off of theater. Just like let's say acting, just acting. Once you're on Broadway, right? Because then you have a good salary, then you can, health weeks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All these things. However, it is also not guaranteed. Like I had a job on Broadway and then it closed because of the pandemic. And this is the case for many shows. It's just even before the pandemic, it's still a business.
Yep.
And if people don't go see the show, then the show might close. Then the show will close if people don't go see it. So I don't like to say that the business side of theater in the United States is Broadway, because not everyone who is doing theater is on Broadway, and that is not the only way to experience musical theater. So I would say that the challenging part is that it is not as constant as, and obviously, a 9-to-5 job. So that's where I think it comes in, the budgeting and the being smart and the survival jobs. Ideally, and this is what I'm thinking right now, I want to find what survival, quote unquote, job I can have that I love, that is sustainable, and that I can do remotely, and that I love. So it sounds like a lot of different things. Like it sounds difficult, but I think it's like we are more than one thing. We can be great at more than one thing, even though we love something so much. So I want to find something that is remote, that I can do even when I'm working in musical theater, in film and TV, that I can have this thing that is my constant, so that I can actually, have a
Yeah. Yep.
If that makes sense.
Well, and this is the point of how you felt with the visa and all the applications and all that stuff. It's like, if the commercial aspects of the business are overtaking your life, then how do you find that love for the thing that you do? If you need the job because you need to sustain, it has to be on Broadway, then you can't make choices about, but what am I interested in? What do I want to actually do?
Exactly. Exactly.
I'd love to just wrap with, if you can think, especially, we started off talking a little bit to our international listeners, and I'd love to just kind of circle back to them. Imagine yourself in the shoes of one of those 17-year-old, 15-year-old, 19-year-old, whatever, international listeners who's maybe feels like NYC is a million miles away, but has that Broadway dream.
Yes.
What would you maybe say to that person in terms of whether it's advice or encouragement, or what would you say to that person who's thinking about, I want to be where Ilda is right now?
One is that you can absolutely do it. If I did it, then you can too. Number one, because sometimes it just takes someone to do it, to show you that it is possible. That's how I felt about being on Broadway. I came here with this dream. However, while I was auditioning, I found myself stopping myself to go into certain auditions just because I was like, oh, I remember Cats and Chicago. I was like, oh, I'm not going to go. They're not going to see me. I'm non-equity. I don't have a green card yet. Da, 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 da. And then my best friend at the non-equity tour of Cinderella, she booked the Broadway revival of Miss Saigon. And she was exactly the same. She was an immigrant, didn't have a green card, and she got it. And I was like, that clicked with me. It took just that of if you never go to the audition, you'll never know, Same with moving countries. If you never try, then you'll never know. So I say, take that first step, believe in yourself, and just go for it. If I could do it, I'm sitting here saying you can definitely do it too. The other thing is that even though I said, do not think too much ahead so that you do not get overwhelmed, or at least that's what works for me, to not get too overwhelmed with I would say the legal aspect of it is something that you definitely should look into. And it can be as simple as getting a consultation with an immigration lawyer in the United States, just so that they can tell you this is what you will need, and can look at your case, like your profile, and say, okay, you need this, this, and this. Because let me tell you, as you were doing these applications, I now have a green card. Then I had an O1 visa. There were many requirements. You were thinking about these requirements all the time. Every single thing I did was okay, then I can maybe use this for my application. Oh, I met Chita Rivera. I hate when I say Spanish names in English. Chita Rivera. I need to take a photo with her for my application. It was more than just oh my God, I just met such a huge icon. Oh my God, I admire you so much. I want this photo for myself. It became also, okay, I know that I need this for my application. And I say that it's good to know these things because a lot of these this process requires stuff from back home, things that you need to do before you're here. Otherwise, you will come here and then will have to leave to then build your but I can't tell you or anyone listening what you have, what you need, what you know that, and your lawyer will know. So that's the one piece of advice that I would give international students that want to do the international artists that want to do this. Is one, go for it. 100% you can do this. Two, get a legal consultation so you know what's going to be required of you once you get here and you prep for it.
Really smart advice. If people love listening to you today, and I imagine they must have, where should they be following you? Where, if they want to get more Ilda in their lives, are we social media people? Do you have anything you want them to check out other than this ambiguous play that has some themes that's coming up in the future?
Definitely. You can follow me at Ilda Mason on Instagram, at Live Mariana in Twitter, even though I don't tweet that much, but I would say Instagram or ildamason.com.
Great. We'll throw that into the show notes so that they can click that. Ilda, it was so fun getting to chat with you today. Thank you so much for the time.
Same, Charlie. Thank you so much. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for your time, for everything, for the cool talk, the amazing game, and for the knowledge on Romeo and Juliet.
Hey, now, that's right. That was educational. We love it.
Yes, we do.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Ilda. I found her to be a font of warm energy and great insight. I just want to do a bit of a deeper dive into something that Ilda said about seeing hardships as gifts. We've all heard some version of this, like when life gives you lemons, and I don't necessarily want to fully take it to that place, though I kind of will. Ilda also espoused a bit of like everything happens for a reason, which is a philosophy I don't actually ascribe to myself, but I think there's a lot of wisdom in both of these ideas that we can try to learn from. In this idea of like when life gives you a lemon, and in this case, we're going to assume that you like don't want lemons for whatever reason. There's nothing wrong with a lemon, but if you get a lemon and you really don't want it, it can suck, right? Whether it's a rejection from an audition, a personal hardship, a pandemic in all of our cases. And to try to view these immediately as gifts and like say like, thank you for that slap in the face. Can I have another? For me is impossible. That's not something I can immediately do. Like even if you recognize on some level that like every closed door can open another, you're sitting there staring at a closed door that was slammed in your face, and it's not fun. Nobody likes to do that. What I think you can do, and at least what I try to do, and I think it's what Ilda is saying too here, is you can try to understand what lesson can I learn from this particular door slamming in my face. If you can try to kind of curiously examine it, take it in while you're mourning it and while you're feeling it, and try to understand, is there something I can improve that might decrease the likelihood of next time getting this particular door slam or lemon gift? Alejandro and I always used to talk about it when we lived together. We talked about refining models. That was what we called our like friendship. Like we're always refining models, right? We try to take some of these lessons from our trainings, and both of our trainings, I think, really asked us to be autodidact. It means like you teach yourself how to act and how you teach yourself how to live life. And we try to expand that into life. We try to always ask, how can I grow from this? How can we grow from this together as friends? And with audition specifically, this can be about that kind of game tape mentality that Tom Miller from Syracuse was talking about in an early episode, right? How do I kind of look back at the audition and continue to improve as an audition? It's not such a hard jump to make when it's specifically an audition. I think it's a bit harder when you feel like you did do an amazing job and didn't book it, which still absolutely happens. And I think maybe even harder when something happens to you in life that is just truly unfair and isn't caused by you. Like what happened to all of us with this damn pandemic. In these cases, I think it is actually less about asking what you could have done differently the way you might in that audition. It's more about maybe seeking out what is the lesson that can come from this, right? Is this a lesson in resiliency? Is this a lesson in slowing down and mourning? Is this a slap in the face that's going to wake me up to see what's right in front of me? I think these questions can get pretty personal and sometimes a bit spiritual. And I suspect, though I don't know, that for people who believe in a literal, all-knowing God, that may be a little easier because you can ask yourself, what is God trying to teach me here? Whereas for me, if you don't believe in that particularly, it's a bit more like, what lesson can I take from this? This is what the universe has given me. And now what gift can I get from this little lemon that's in front of me? Still, with all of this, I can't get myself to a place of everything happens for a reason. But I do truly believe that we are the authors of our own narrative, even if we don't control all the plot. So we can ascribe reason and meaning to the events of our lives. Whether it's a pre-screen rejection from a college, a Broadway show shutting down, as just happened to my partner, or an act of God, we decide what we will do with the cards that we're dealt in life. If you choose to live in a place of it happened because it's unfair and it just sucks, then you make that true, even if, of course, it already was true. But if, like Ilda, you choose to see it as a gift that you can learn from, it'll still suck. It's not going to stop sucking, but you can rewrite your narrative and determine what the reasons are for the happening. Well, if you enjoyed this episode and me talking philosophy and life, and you want to hear more, please hit that follow button. We'd also love you and appreciate you if you're going to rate us, review us, give us a little comment wherever you found us. We suggest 5 stars if you love Steven Spielberg for his underwater sharks, and an ironic 5 stars if you love him for his dancing sharks. You can also reach out to us with questions for the pod at mailbag@mappingthecollegeaudition.com or reach Meghan and me directly. I'm at Charmer7 and Meghan is at Meghan Marie 2014. If you want to work with MTCA for help with your individual prep for your college audition journey, please check us out at mtca.nyc. You can also follow us at Musical Theater College Auditions. That's on Instagram, at TweetMTCA on Twitter, and on TikTok, on YouTube. We're everywhere now. It's 2022 as you're listening to this. It is everywhere, MTCA. To my young artists, my young international artists out there mapping their journeys, you can do it. Just talk to a lawyer. We'll see you next week.